All right, let's get it started, Adam.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining. We've in South Australia now joined everyone else in the country in a lockdown, so no more sort of boastfulness from this side of the country. We're all in this together. So I think this is the first Thirsty Thursday that we've done for a while. So yeah, thanks for joining. We've had a number of new wines which have recently gone live with Naked Wines on the website. So I think we've probably got 5 or 6 there now of the new vintages. So it'll be nice to talk you through them. From what I can see so far, most of the feedback seems quite positive, but there's a few bubbles on the website which say still not enough comments. So I'm anxiously awaiting the minimum 25 reviews that will let me know if I've produced a wine of value that's enjoyed by angels or not. Anyway, I'm assuming that there's some sorry, I'm hopeless at Zoom. I'm just
Well, hey, let's start from the very beginning. Who is
no, that's okay. I've just got my settings here and I can't see anyone apart from me and you, Dan, and so it feels like quite an intimate conversation.
Yeah, you actually, everyone else is incognito. They can just pop through the chat. So okay. We just get to look at each other and then we'll see what people say about the wine and ask questions.
All right, fantastic. So yeah, so I'm assuming there's people in the room who have been angels for a decade and been along this journey with us for a decade, and there's people who possibly joined yesterday. So probably best to wind the story back to the beginning. And one of the most sort of commonly asked questions is around what is a apparently playful name, Rabbit and Spaghetti. So my wife Amy and I, who is far more important in this business than I am, behind every man there's a good woman, but I just get pushed forward as a token jock, and it's really, and I get promoted as a rock star winemaker. Really not the case. But so we purchased a vineyard in the Clare Valley, and the story of Rabbit and Spaghetti is something that we stumbled across, which really resonated with us and our values around winemaking. Winemaking to us is a lot more than the sum of ingredients and the giving and taking of arbitrary points by third parties, gold medals. It's about people and experience. And so there was this and shared experiences. So we stumbled across this story in the local library. It wasn't a story, it was a piece of history about Australian prisoners of war who were captured. Italian prisoners of war who were captured in North Africa, transported to Australia, and interned in internment camps, and then seconded out to farmers in many regions in Australia. But we stumbled across some stories particularly relevant to the Clare Valley. But what was apparent is that these men were sent to these regions to work, in essence, for hard labour. And what really happened is they were replacing a generation of our young boys who were away at war. And in many of these instances, these prisoners shared tables with their captors, their farm captors, and there's these lovely stories of breaking of bread and sharing and humanity. And I think at the end of the day, that's what wine is. For us, it's much more important that our wines are, to hear stories of our wines being shared at weddings and funerals, these incredibly important, emotive human occasions. It's a real privilege that our wines do get enjoyed and shared at those times, much more so than some critic giving it 95 points. I just that's nice, but I think far too often we break wine and many things down to an easy sales grab. And that's really not what we're about. I'd much rather make a point which got one that got no points but was shared by many. And some of the best wines I've had, I don't know the names of. They were served to me in a tumbler in Italy, but the environment, the people, it was magic. And that's what wine is about. And that's what we hope that every wine that is rabbit and spaghetti brings to everyone who tries it. And Angels share it with their friends, and it's actually resonated with a lot of people around the world. We get mail from people from Tasmania, England, Canada, saying that's my story. That's my story. My grandmother had this Italian prisoner of war who lived in the shed, and we ate with us at the table, and then he saved my grandma from a bolting horse. It's been absolutely crazy, but that is the essence of rabbit and spaghetti. So it's not just a playful name. The story is on every bottle. If you have the presence of mind to turn it around. But well, it's amazing. I've spoken to people who I have dealt with, some in Naked Wines, not in Australia, for a decade, who've asked me the same question, and I said, just turn the bottle around, mate. It's there. Anyway, I hope that answers the initial question. If there's anything else, want some clarity on the history, you can ask me. But Google it. But I guess rabbit comes from being the available protein at the time, and spaghetti is the Italian influence. And with those two, we have a playful marriage of language and an extensive range of wines.
One thing that kind of it goes across all of your wines. So when you go to our site at Naked Wines, you can actually go and look at, Adam has his own profile. You can follow him and kind of keep up to date with what's going on in the vineyard and how his wines are going for next year's vintage. But every wine has their own profile as well. And within the description, I was looking at all of them, and it's all like served best with friends. Served best with friends, maybe by a fire. So I feel like that's your whole vibe of all the wines that you have. It's, share it with the people that you like to be around. That's where you're going to get the best experience and the best taste.
I think that's right. And, I think so often people, they want to know, is this, everyone's always looking for a better wine, a more highly pointed wine. And, that's not what wine is. Wine is the shared experience. So we always try to make the best wine we can, but the best wines you've had, they need to be framed by other wine experiences that you have also, and they're all special for their own reason. So it's all about people. When I think in a time like this, it sort of holds true. Hopefully the human spirit can get us through this madness that we're in at the minute.
Exactly. Should we crack the first one?
We're here to taste some wine. Not for Adam's rudimentary history 101, possibly inaccurate. But the first wine that we've got to taste tonight is the 2021 Pinot Gris. I'll pour myself a glass, but I think everyone else is probably well into it because I've been ranting and raving.
Do you pour yourself a glass of, go through all of the wines, or just go through one bottle? Like I'm just drinking the Barossa Vale Shiraz tonight, so don't feel like you have to dig into all 5 wines.
But feel free to. So I'm going to go through them in what I consider to be a suitable tasting order, starting with the whites. But the Pinot Gris is a combination of fruit from the Clare Valley and from Langhorne Creek. 2021 was an amazing year, to be honest. It was, with regards to the white, well, we had a long, slow ripening period. So for the whites, this meant really slow development of flavours. But what was essential, which we often struggle to do, is to retain natural acidity. That with rapid ripening, you tend to get rapid declining acid in the berries, and so we need to ameliorate the juice to bring it back into spec. But this year it was the wines made themselves. I'm really just a token spokesperson for it. But one of the first things you see about this wine is its lovely sort of pale rose gold colour. Now that's an attribute to the wine which does attract a lot of comment, because it's a white wine, but a lot of people don't realise that Pinot Gris is actually a pink-skinned grape. So inadvertently, when you press the grapes, you extract some colour. And someone's saying, yeah, but the Pinot Gris that I have at the supermarket's white, and we can make it white. We can add a whole lot of findings to it, and we can reduce that. But we try to be true to what it is, and we're quite happy with the little bit of colour in the glass. And from looking at the comments online, I think it seems to attract a lot of comment, and people tend to quite like it. So it's a really sort of bright, crisp, aromatic wine, very multi-purpose in terms of I guess consumption situation. It's really has these sort of lovely red, delicious grapefruit sort of characters. Some see it as white peach and honey, but it's not a complex wine. It's a simple, bright, fresh, crisp, aromatic, fruit-driven wine. I could try and wax on about it, but it's pretty straightforward what it is. I love it in a lot of consumption situations, but none better than sitting on a friend's boat, because I don't want you have to clean it, and bucket of prawns, even just a pear and rocket salad, that type of scenario. It's a great wine.
Yeah. And this is from your new vineyard?
It is, yeah. So it's half from our new vineyard at Leasingham, and the other sort of 40% of the fruit comes from a vineyard from a grower at Langhorne Creek, where we've been sourcing fruit from for a number of years also. Do you want to do questions about the wine as we go, or come back to it? It might be kind of relevant just to pick it off as we go through. If that I will ask you some questions as they come through. I don't have any specifically about this one. Someone had said, Karina said that she loves this one and it tastes natural, if that makes sense. I think it does. Well, I mean, it is natural as much as planting an imported monoculture in a new land it can be. So I do I do giggle sometimes with people claiming some vineyards and wine producing techniques are natural versus others, because I think at the end of the day, we've cleared the land and planted something here that wasn't here before. So I guess we're all a little bit guilty of not being true to place, I guess. But we all enjoy drink, so that's an argument for another time. So in terms of what we try and do is we just try to preserve wine, fruit flavour from the vineyard to the glass, which is, whilst it's, I'll say, minimal intervention, we do use small amounts of sulphur, just what is required to keep the wine oxidatively sound and microbially free. But apart from that, it's grape juice and yeast.
Amazing. And so one question that we got in earlier was, are all the grapes from your vineyard, or you kind of mentioned you have some growers as well?
Well, we grower relationships, that have been cornerstone to our business. We've got growers that we've been dealing with along this whole journey with Atlas Wines and Rabbit and Spaghetti as we sort of became involved with Naked Wines. And again, it's great to have been able to travel this path with these people. Wine's about shared experiences, and we're lucky to have some really, really good grower relationships, and that's how our business really started. And then we've recently acquired a small vineyard, and we initially had another small vineyard, but it still probably only accounts for about 30% of the fruit that we process. So the grower relationships are, they're really, really important to Amy and I, and they're people who we have around our tables. So it's, I think I saw a question, Dan sent me some questions that were presented prior to this session, but there was a question about bushfires and smoke taint in the previous year, in 2020. And the reality is we were lucky as growers. Clare Valley wasn't affected, but we had some Adelaide Hills growers who were affected. We couldn't process their fruit. Their vineyards were burnt, and some were smoke tainted. And I guess that's the reality is farming's tough. Things often don't go your way, but we're tough, and we just sort of we get on with it. My wife Amy, she's a 7th generation farmer, and you learn to ride the bumps and get on with it when things go your way. So growers are important to us.
Yeah, fabulous. And I feel like with kind of with the support that you get from Naked Wines, you're able to kind of go out there and really support the growers as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's we're able to make strong grower commitments to these people. So we which is great. We're able to give them commitments beyond a spot price in 1 year, which is nice, because there's there's not a lot of companies or small companies that are able to do that. So it's important to us, that whole relationship, and it goes a number of different ways, which is fantastic. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I'm really ready to get into that Barossa Valley Shiraz.
Yeah, we'll have a look at the Barossa Valley Shiraz that Dana's already finished.
Cheers.
I'll just grab it here. So I'll start with this one. I had a look at the wines before I jumped on, and I thought this was the correct tasting order. The 2019 being a year older, it's a little bit softer, and probably a little bit easier to drink. Where some of the vibrancy and the strength of tannins in the other wines, they look a year younger. So the Rabbit Speed Barossa Valley Shiraz, we source from growers in the northern Barossa Valley, as a rule. But the two vineyards where this comes from, one's in Ebenezer, one's in Kalimna in the sub-regions. But the wine is, it's powerful and complex. It spends 12, 14 months in a combination of new and seasoned French oak, primarily hogsheads. But this is quintessential Barossa Shiraz. Big blackberry mocha, juicy plums, very generous velvety tannins. With regards to a food match, something like a rare beef fillet, or if you're feeling crazy, some kangaroo with a glaze, or something like that. But it's it has some wonderful dry spice, nutmeg and cinnamon. But at the end of the day, this wine's about provenance. It's about the northern Barossa. It's big, it's strong, it's bold, it tells a story, makes its presence known. Enjoy. Any comments?
Lovely. I mean, it's a really great wine. Yeah, take us through that sip. When you swirl the glass of wine, what does that do to the wine?
Oh, buys me time before I have to speak again. But it's basically, it increases the surface area of the wine and helps the volatile aroma compounds come out of solution, which then, in theory, collect in the top of the glass. So just make the sniff more concentrated. So it's you can shake it up. It just really helps the aromas come out of the wine.
And what do you recommend as far as cellaring this wine?
Oh, so looking at previous vintages, the wine, it's a $20 Barossa Shiraz, so it's not a wine which is built to last 20 years. But it's a wine which does live 5 to 8 years comfortably. That said, when cellaring wine, I'm always very careful, because there's always someone, when you say it'll live 5 to 8 years, they buy one bottle and they put it away for 8 years, and they come back and you get an email saying, oh, I had this wine and it wasn't any good. You know, at the end of the day, it's, you know, that's an estimate from the winemaker. It's not a guarantee, and it's not a guarantee that you will enjoy it more than you enjoy it now. So my recommendation when cellaring wine is you really need to do it in sort of a minimum of 6 bottles. And then, you know, if the cellaring recommendation is, you know, 8 years, have one immediately, have one at 2, 4, 6, 8, and then save one for 9 or 10. It might go 9 or 10. But you might find you really enjoyed it at 6, and you wish you didn't hang on to one. So it's really a way to experience the journey of the wine. You can either be prepared to smash a bottle against the wall and have it at 10 years and think, oh, I preferred it earlier, or you can get it to 6 years and say, that's great, and just pull them out and drink them. You know, there is some people do expect wines to just get better and better with age, and that's not the case. They will, you know, lose their primary fruit character and become more complex and savoury as they get older. So travel with it is my advice.
Well, good news. This wine is can be enjoyed right now, and it's beautiful.
Look, you know, wine's a made to drink. You know, it's, you know, we can build wines that will live forever, but they won't necessarily. They'll be great wines, but won't necessarily be great drinks. And that's you know, that's a balancing act for winemakers, and you know, that's why, you know, I mentioned Amy. You know, she's not a trained winemaker, but in terms of tasting and putting these wines together in the bottle, we have a team of 2 other winemakers who are involved with us also in the production team, and with Amy, you know, we look at these wines on the bench together, and you know, everyone has an equal voice at that table. It's a winemaking by panel, and there's nothing worse than a winemaker who won't listen, who's too proud to admit that they're wrong or think differently to the crowd, because I think as soon as you stop listening, you know, you probably start to make poorer wines, I think. Or, you know, everyone has a hat in the ring.
Yeah. We got a question on explaining the different flavors that you taste in wines, i.e. the nutmeg, blackberry. How does all that work?
Well, they're just sort of they're mental hooks that you use to see a wine when you see a wine. And I guess the more you practice, the more you sort of are familiar and comfortable in using those terms. You know, we see a lot of spice, things like nutmeg and cinnamon. You know, that's usually a barrel-derived character. Things like black currants, you know, plums. You know, that's very clearly a fruit flavour. And then you see, you know, you can see odd characters, which are often the interplay of different aroma compounds. Things people talk about, you know, marzipan, or these kind of complex aroma compounds that. But it's really just a way for the individual to remember a wine, and there's no wrong answer. Often, I mean, if you jump on the internet, I'm sure you'll be able to find a flavour wheel, you know. But often, with fruit flavours, you'll see flavours from a spectrum of green and unripe. So they might be, you know, herbaceous tomato leaf, you know, those capsicum, those green sort of characters. Round to, on the other side of the dial, you'll have, you know, stewed fruit, jam, preserves, and I think, you know, that's, you know, from ripe to overripe and everything in between. There's a, you know, there's a flavour, but some people don't have, well, so everyone has certain affinity to certain flavour compounds than others. So that there's no expectation that there's no aniseed that's tipped in, but if aniseed is something, you know, people who have, you know, may have eaten those aniseed balls when they were children as you know, lollies, you know, all of a sudden, you know, that hits them. Black pepper, you know, it's really just a hook for your memory. So there's no right or wrong, and you know, usually the the bigger the ego and the bigger the personality, the more elaborate the descriptor. Just saying. So,
we like to play the game of, describing the wine when you first start to drink it, and then by the end of the bottle, how the descriptions change just a little bit.
Absolutely. And look, some of that is consumption based, and some of it, we were talking about the swirling of the wine in the glass. As particularly young wines, as they are poured, whether they're decanted or not, they will open up and evolve in the glass over time. So that's just oxygen, getting involved in the wine and helping, volatile compounds come out of solution. And that's part of the journey. That's part of the game.
Someone said that they're having a little trouble hearing you. If you can move in a little closer. So would you recommend, if you open up a bottle of wine and it kind of doesn't really taste that great, if you open it, let it sit for a little bit and open up and oxidize, would it become a different wine? Would it taste a little bit better?
It depends on the wine. Everyone has preference. There's no right or wrong answer. You will always prefer one wine to another. It doesn't mean it's a bad wine. I think it's important for people to acknowledge that because they don't like it doesn't mean it's poor. It just means that it's not, their favorite at that time. And like I said, that experience frames another experience, which is important. So without that, the other experience means nothing. But
how long let it breathe for, decant it for?
Oh, young wines, I think, give them a splash into a decanter for, give them an hour. Like I said, it's you can't really do it too long, really, for a young wine. For something like this, which is a 2019 or a 2020, the more air you can get into them, the better. They really will open up and evolve with time. You will see some old wines, and when I'm talking old wines, I'm talking 20, 30, 40-year-old wines, which that they're already much further advanced along that oxidative journey, so they can be more fragile when poured. So I've seen wines in the glass where they're poured and they open up, they look amazing, and then they fall over and look oxidized and brown and dull within minutes. So it's a wine by wine scenario. But as a general rule, the bigger, the heavier, the more robust the wine, the more time. Your lighter, brighter reds probably tend to benefit less, but young ones will still benefit.
Well, as we crack open the next bottle of wine, will you take us through a couple of food pairing recommendations for the Barossa Valley Shiraz?
Well, I think I just did, but I mean, I'm not a chef, but I think big rare meats, like I said, a beef fillet or something like like a kangaroo, some game, something a little bit interesting. I had a glass tonight with a beef bourguignon, which was fantastic. Don't normally eat beef bourguignon on Thursday, so it's kind of nice being allowed to at home. Had a little bit of time on my hands. And
what's the next wine that we're digging into?
This is the McLaren Vale Shiraz from 2020. So I guess they were both warm years, but 2020 was particularly hot and fast as far as vintage goes. Happened really, really quickly. That said, the sites where we source this fruit from Clarendon and Seaview, so a little bit higher altitude, a little bit later than the Clarendon vineyard in particular, a little bit later than the valley floor. So in that wine, I think it looks a lot more sort of brighter and more elegant, lifted, perfumed. Sort of more violets, floral than the Barossa Shiraz. Still has a lovely core of sort of dense black fruit, but perhaps, for lack of a better word, a prettier wine. So I think it really does sort of show, whilst it has a lot of those core similar fruit characters, being blackberries and plums, being made from the same variety. I think the spice profile, a bit more white pepper and licorice, which I like. But it's a different wine from a different place and at a different time. So I think it's a wine which is maybe a little bit more suited to no, it's probably still a beef dish, still a strong red wine, strong meat dish. I tend to save lamb for the Cabernet, but you can't really go wrong with with a good meat dish. It's a good steak.
Yeah.
Sauce of choice.
Yes. Wonderful. Well, do you have any other tips or advice? I mean, so the last Shiraz was from Barossa and this one's from McLaren Vale. What's the difference between the two regions?
Well, I mean, they're both part of the same sort of broad geological structure. McLaren Vale is a maritime climate, so you get more consistent, weather patterns and ripening. It's not frost prone. You get more even nighttime temperatures than daytime temperatures. Tends to be more even ripening. Tends to ripen a little bit earlier than than the Barossa. Generally, these vineyards probably don't because they're actually higher altitude. Clarendon's a little bit of an anomaly in terms of the region. It's right on the northern edge, and I'd have to double check the exact altitude, but it's a good couple of 100 meters above sea level than the valley floor. The Barossa, no, it's hot and flat. Generally speaking, it's more big, dense, powerful wines. Where I guess McLaren Vale too seems to be, more generally. A lot of this is generally speaking the vineyards that I work from and have seen tends to be in part a bit more vigorous, a bit more bigger berry, a bit more plump. But again, it comes down to preference. But again, it's the Adelaide geosyncline, which is the broad geological structure, runs basically from Clare, round to McLaren Vale. So there's a lot of similarities as well as differences, as well. But I'm not a soil scientist. There's probably people who are better placed to pull apart the geology of the regions than I am. So I'm not going to pretend. But with these wines, our McLaren Vale wines tend to be, with the particular mix of vineyards that we source fruit from, tend to, we get lovely sort of the bright aromatic stuff out of Clarendon, and then out of Seaview we get sort of the sort of heavier, denser black fruited stuff.
Well, it's okay. We know your strength is winemaking, so.
Oh, it's a tough gig. People expect you to to be a geologist, environmental scientist, winemaker, and at the end of the day, we're all just blokes having a go. So.
Yeah. So I know the last Shiraz was spent some time in French oak. What about, did this one spend some time in French oak, or was it just?
Yeah, similar. The barrel program that we run across all our Shiraz is very similar. We have a preference for French oak, and I guess to choose Coopers, and I guess styles and grains in oak that provide more structural support to the wine to allow to the fruit to speak, rather than to try and make oak-driven wines. Not to say that there's not good American oak out there. And I'm sure there is. It's just our style preferences for French, always has been, and I think it suits the styles of wines that we're making. Excuse me.
Well, we've got some people that are drinking this tonight, and they said they're loving it. And Paul cooked a slow 9-hour cooked beef cheeks with Shiraz. Hoping you're enjoying that, Paul, or if that's on the plan later on this week.
Yeah, sounds fantastic. I've been homeschooling 3 kids, so I don't know where to get beef cheeks this time at the moment. Slow cooked meats this time of year with these wines works a treat. As long as you don't have to tip too much in. I think I used about 4 glasses in the bourguignon this evening, but I've got a couple of bottles lying around, so it's okay. Any other questions, or do I move on to the next one?
Yeah, I feel like there was one that You can start to move on to the next one. I think there's people are just kind of ask what your favorite wine to make is.
Oh, it's like
picking your favorite child, isn't it?
Absolutely, it is. It is. But I do. There are wines that you do really enjoy making. Being from Clare, making Clare Riesling is always exciting. It's a variety which you just want to be good every year. It's so pristine, it's so fresh, it's so crisp. It's just something that you can see it in the vineyard, and so when that comes good, it really is like when the fruit comes into the winery, you feel like you've got this gift, and you've just got to nurse its way through. There's really not a whole lot of winemaking involvement with it. It's really just really looking after the resource that you've been given. So that's something that I like. But Barossa Shiraz is exciting too. It's big, it's powerful, it's rich. There's you can smell it coming the gate when the trucks turn up. It's exciting to work with. But as I get older, and I'm enjoying lighter, brighter reds. So things like Tempranillo, fantastic. And to be honest, this year I think the wine we use it as a blender, but the Mataro just looked superb. So there's nothing that I don't enjoy making. But if I had to choose one, I think I'd choose Clare Riesling.
There you go. What's the big bottle behind you?
That is a big empty bottle. We ran a promotion last year with Naked Wines, and that's where we gave away one of those bottles to an angel, and yeah, that's just an empty bottle, which it doesn't have a home. So hopefully there'll be a promotion at some point in the future. But yeah, it's just a big empty bottle. Sorry, Dan, no exciting story.
I wonder how long it took him to drink the whole bottle that they won.
I think I asked for photographs, and I haven't seen anything yet. I'd like to see a video of them trying to get the cork out, because I reckon that would be quite a challenge. But yeah, not mine now.
I love that. We've got some questions asking about when your McLaren, Vale, Grenache, and GSM is coming back.
The Grenache and the GSM. I think the GSM is on its way. It should be arriving in the warehouse any day. So look out for that shortly. Straight Grenache, I think will be end of the year. Yeah, I think it'll be end of the year. I'd need to double check the forecast from Maker Wines. I'm not at the front of my mind right now, but it's a wine which we would normally deliver sort of 9 to 12 months post production. But the GSM from 2020, like I said, should be in the warehouse any day.
Be on the lookout. Watch those inboxes, guys. Lovely. Oh, let's go on to 2020 CSM.
Okay.
So how do you choose which varietal goes first?
Well, I guess generally speaking, we have an idea of what we want to do before we start. And I guess the CSM is, it's loosely a traditional claret blend, give or take a bit of Malbec. Malbec's a little bit of a Clare thing, Cabernet, Shiraz, Malbec. I think in the past we have made wines that were Shiraz, Cabernet, Malbec, and I think that was probably in a year where we didn't have much Cabernet. But for us, we want to make a wine which is stylistically different to. We do 3 Shiraz, so we want to do something that is Cabernet led, and Cabernet tends to it provides a great framework for a wine. Usually good acid line, quite firm tannins, very structural, and so it takes the Shiraz to soften that and give it some sort of mid palate generosity, particularly as a young wine. And the Malbec's just in there for fun because we love it. So in any given year, we go into vintage thinking that the wines will be roughly 50% Cabernet. This is what we budget on in terms of trying to source fruit where we need to. Roughly 50% Cabernet, 30 to 40% Shiraz, and sort of 10% Malbec. And then we don't finalise that until we get the wines on the bench 12 months later, really, work out how much of each we manage to source, because we're not dealing in certainties with agricultural production, and then what looks good, what's the best wine we can make. So I wouldn't have, if it was a year that was particularly where the Shiraz or the Cabernet looked particularly poor or not as strong, or the addition to this blend was didn't help the wine, then we would definitely back that off. We try and make the best wine that we can. So there's the CSM where we try and reserve a little bit of flexibility there to just end of the day to make a good drink.
Lovely. Well, I just heard from the Naked Wines elves that the Grenache will be hitting the virtual shelves right before Christmas.
Oh, fantastic. So there you go.
We get the GSM soon, and then we get to celebrate again over Christmas time with your Grenache.
Yeah, exciting times. I think that could be. We do the two brands, the Cellarworks and the Rabbit Spaghetti. That could be a Cellarworks. There's a new wine coming. Oops, there's a new Cellarworks Grenache coming.
Yes, lovely. Got a question on, do you ever find that there are grapes that aren't good for making wine? And if so, what do you do with them?
Look, I mean, not sure I understand the question, but when we saw all the grapes that we source are, they're from quality vineyards, and they're grown for wine production. The issue, which the question might be, if wines are spoiled for with disease, and the reality is that we can't take them. if we have botrytis or powdery mildew, downy mildew, and the grapes are not fit for purpose, then we can't take them. That's and you don't want me to, because it doesn't make very tasty wine. So otherwise, there's obviously table grapes and more grapes which aren't destined for wine production, and I just stay well away from that stuff. That's the realms of some sultanas do get taken for white wine. Generally, big companies goes into a box about this size, and it just gets lost as dry white wine. But that's not my gig. that's corporate winemaking.
Yeah, definitely. And what would be the difference between the table grapes that you eat and grapes that you produce for wine?
They're just different varieties, but table grapes are generally about this big, where wine grapes are really, really small, and the way they're grown, table grapes are actually not that sweet, and they don't have a great deal of acidity, so they're just not really fit for purpose. I think to make wine out of sultanas, whatever, you'd end up with a wine which was quite low alcohol, quite flabby, not much good acid structure. But I'm guessing it's like using different flours for self-raising flour versus plain flour in different scenarios. It's just the wrong ingredient for the job.
Yeah. Lovely. Should we dig into the last wine?
Have we done the CSM? Have we tasted the CSM?
Yeah. You have anything else that you want to talk about CSM and that Cabernet Shiraz Malbec, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. This wine is a South Australian blend. So 2020 was a difficult year in that it was, there was quite really small crops. Quality was great, but the crops were really small. So we've sourced Cabernet and Shiraz from for this wine from Clare, Barossa, McLaren, Vale, Langhorne Creek. Just, I guess, removing that regional restriction gave us the scope to actually go and source and fruit of adequate quality. And the result's been great. The Malbec's all Clare, but again, it's a wine which it's a unique Australian style. It's this claret style, but I see lots of sort of ripe mulberries, some varietal Cabernet tomato leaf in that. You'll see, compared to the previous Shiraz, the wine probably does have a bit more structure, a bit more tannin, a bit more acid. And it will probably cellar a little bit better. Also better, a little bit longer than the Shiraz. But it's a wine which is quite. It's much more. I use the term structural, which is structure is sort of a loose word for tannin and acid and those things which give wine the presence in the mouth as opposed to the I guess just flavour. If that makes sense.
Yeah. At what part of the process of winemaking do you mix all the three varietals together?
Blending, like I said, we go into vintage with a plan. We make all the wines separately in batches from each vineyard, and then it's not until immediately prior to bottling that we finalise the blend, because we want to get it right. Some of you may have seen a wine. We haven't done it for a few years. It was a field blend white. It was a mixture of Riesling, Gewürztraminer, and Pinot Gris. That was really exciting. That was really good fun. That was just a harvester in vineyards, and we just picked it all in one tank and sort of get what you get. That's not the case with this. We're a bit more measured and considered about how these wines come together, just given how the different varieties and sites bring different attributes to the wine. So it's nice to know going in what you want to do. Doesn't always come out the other side that way, and you need to make adjustments. And that's really our job as winemakers is to just keep things on the straight and narrow. It's easy to make wine when things go your way, but just when things go off the track, you just sort of need to just keep it moving along, keep it going forward.
Yeah, I envision just when you're doing that, you have all the test tubes that we used to use in science class back in grade school, and you're just mixing and pouring and trying until you find.
Yeah, it's pretty rudimentary. There's it's at the end of the day, we know how much wine of each we've got in tank, and so we can't blend any more than that into any particular blend. So we know what we have to work with. The maximums that we can put in from any particular vineyard or region, because that's what we've got. And then you mix it up in a measuring cylinder, and we look at a number of different options and choose the best one. We normally perhaps make up a blend which is to about 90% of the total volume, and then we sort of have 10% sort of leeway to play around, just to try and tweak a wine at the end. So with regards to our labelling laws in Australia, we're able to add small amounts of older vintages, younger vintages, different varieties that aren't on the label, just if a wine needs to be tweaked to make it a good drink, really. So obviously within labelling laws, we allow ourselves a little bit of room to come back to it once the bulk of the blend is done in a really considered way, just to finish the wine prior to bottle.
Lovely. Well, I mean, if you need some taste testers when you're doing that process, you have a big group of angels that would probably be very willing to help out.
Well, like I said, in a non-COVID time, it's great. The more the merrier. And at the end of the day, it's we're making wine for the people. We're not trying to set ourselves up in an ivory tower and make wines which we want to pat each other on the back about we want to make wines that people enjoy. So, and we've deliberately chosen not to have a cellar door. We've got 3 young kids, and we've chosen to sell our wine and market ourselves in different ways. So it's important that. Sorry, I forgot what I was saying. I was just waxing on. What was I saying? What was I?
I mean, I guess, do you think that can Angel members come and visit you?
Oh yes, so yeah, that would be great. So the more the merrier. Obviously, it's everyone needs to be there on the same day and in a socially appropriate way in this time. But we don't have a cellar door. That's what I was getting at. We don't have a cellar door. So when you have a cellar door, you get that feedback across the bench. With Naked Wines, we get feedback from Angels, and that's all very. It's all taken on board. We take that very seriously. A lot of people. I don't know if they're flippant about their comments, but if we listen, and we want to produce wines which are, which people want to drink.
Yeah.
So we don't discount someone's palate as being, I don't know, non-professional or immature. At the end of the day, you're a drinker. You've got a palate. You know what you like. We're smart enough to listen to those comments, take them on board, and put them alongside our own comments to tweak a blend that people want.
Yeah, definitely. Somebody had asked about if the Australian government could do more to help Aussie winemakers, but I mean, I can say that what we do at Naked Wines, we're all about helping the independent Australian, New Zealand winemakers, and with the support of our Angel members and customers, we're able to go out there and continue to support independent Aussie winemakers. And as we grow, we can bring on and support some more ones. So, if you're ever looking at ways to support independent Australian winemakers, we have this really wonderful campaign called Stop the Squeeze, and where we've gone out and have been supporting naked winemakers and non-naked winemakers who have been impacted by the China tax tariffs. So we're trying to do our bit, and it's because of our wonderful Angel members that we can go out there and help these winemakers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think at the end of the day, the government, we don't necessarily want handouts. A lot of us, we run good businesses. We make good wine that people enjoy. So, we're not all hopeless cases that need to be saved. We've chosen this. We've chosen to partner with Naked Wines and to I guess invest in a new model. We did that a decade ago, which was it was risky for us. It was risky for Naked. I remember first. Naked pitched to me, which was a sign of the times, and it was I was skeptical. I thought it's the internet, it's this, it's that, I just thought, well, if you don't know, you don't try, you won't know. And it's worked out. It's been a great partnership. I think we've benefited from Naked. Naked's benefited from us. It's been a really, really healthy relationship, and we're grateful for that. It's been a wonderful journey, but we have chosen and invested in doing this as opposed to selling wine to China. That was we did little bits to China, but not a lot. So that was just our choice. And the way things have worked out recently, then that looks like we were vindicated. But that was that was really luck. And a lot of other guys chose to go to China, and they had buyers there who were paying good money for wine, and they've been horribly impacted by decisions that are out of their control. And we really feel for those guys. But it's we're all big people in a big world, and you get things thrown at you, and you you deal with it. So it's like a bushfire, really. No, I read something today. It sounds like the UK is picking up in terms of export. No, we're still down overall, but people probably need to, or we all need to get a little bit creative, speak to some different people.
Yeah.
You've got to be positive, and you got to keep going. Otherwise, what do you do? And Naked Wine's doing their bit. They're really having a crack. But the reality is, China was taking so much wine that our domestic consumption can't go anywhere near it. So for all small independent wine businesses to succeed, we really need to find other options.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Definitely. Well, so you have two labels with Naked Wines. You have the Rabbit and Spaghetti, and you have the Cellar Works. What is the difference between them?
Rabbit and Spaghetti is our premium offer. Cellar Works is a different price point. So the wines are still high quality, but we make them to a budget to try and sell wines for $12. Yeah. It's pretty simple. So the Cellar Works Shiraz comes out of Langhorne Creek. Again, really good vineyards, good growers, good grower relationships. But we're able to procure fruit from Langhorne Creek at a more competitive price than we are out of the other regions. The Rabbit and Spaghetti are our premium offer. Yeah,
I mean, but still, it's priced so well for the quality of wine that you're drinking.
Oh no, absolutely. It's not something that I think value doesn't exist at a price. Value is you have to deliver value at any price. So I like to think that we're selling, Naked Wines are selling $25, $30 reds for $18 to $20, and that's where we that's where we need to be in order to because it's interesting. It's 20 years ago when I used to work in a bottle shop before I started winemaking, people still wanted a good bottle of red for $20, and that hasn't changed. But I still get a 3% CPI increase on my bottling costs every year. So it can be tight, but it's with Naked Wines, there's a lot of security in the business, and we know it's sold. I mean, we know you guys drink it. Which is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, lovely. Well, I mean, I'm ready to hear about the last wine, your 2020 Cab.
All right, so the 2020 Clare Valley Cabernet is from two different sites on the same vineyard at Leasingham in the Clare Valley. So one of those sites is north facing, the other is south facing. So the south facing vineyard the north facing vineyard is probably it's earlier ripening, contributes more generosity of fruit, where the south facing vineyard is a little more sheltered, later ripening, contributes more kind of structure, acid, tannin, sort of and aromatics. And that's sort of where we get sort of the tomato leaf, violet, floral sort of characters from. But the density of fruit comes from the block on the northern side. Again, I'd be looking at matching this with probably with the lamb dish, something like a Greek lamb or slow roasted mutton, something that's really really got some guts and can really sort of stand up to those tannins, and like the wine, it's strong enough to be able to stand up to those sort of really, really strong flavors. But again, lots of currant, cassis, mulberry on the palate, lots of sort of savory notes, and it's got some lovely sort of fine powdery tannins. It's interesting. Cabernet is something which is it's probably, from what I can see, sort of falling out of favour is the wrong word. It doesn't have the breadth of distribution, and it isn't as fashionable as Shiraz, but really does make some of the some of the greatest wines this country produces. They do need time often, but it's a wonderful grape variety, which I think hopefully we start to rediscover. I know the Chinese were big on really love the Cabernet, so I dare say there's a fair bit of Cabernet coming back to Australia.
Yes.
But it's got these lovely sort of cigar box, tobacco-y, cedary sort of notes, which is wonderful. Any comments?
I mean, nothing but wonderful words of loving your wines. I think we even may have a love connection through the chat. Paul and Laura have been kind of chatting after Paul talked about his 9-hour meet. Laura wanted in on that. So
yeah, anything for a feed.
asked if Paul was single. So we'll see how that goes in fruition. And if something is to happen and they get married, I guess we'll have to just supply them with rabbit and spaghetti wine at their wedding.
Yeah, it sounds like a reality TV show that I don't really want to be involved in, but it's from what I can see, those things are quite popular. So all the best to both of you.
Lovely. Does anybody have any other questions before we close it out? My favorite thing to ask is, what's your one advice about drinking wine and, any wine tips?
Share it with someone you like. I said it at the start, I'll say it again. Look, it's don't overcomplicate it. It is a drink. Think about it, talk about it, sure, but it's not the be all and end all. It facilitates human interaction and the human condition, and I think that we need to remember that. No one likes a wine bore at a party who just pulls it apart and says that they don't like it. When wine tasting, someone said to me, an older person, when I first started out, said, try and be a positive taster. And I think that's really, really important. It's really easy to knock something. It's really easy to say, I don't like that. It's a bit this, it's a bit that. But, even the wines you hate, the wines which really don't appeal, find one thing that is good about it. Because it's there. You just got to look. So be a positive taster.
I love that. I love that advice. And, if you guys want to connect with Adam, feel free to follow him on his page on our site. And you get all of these updates on what he's doing in his vineyards and his winemaking process. So it's always fun to keep tabs on you, Adam.
If there's any questions, please feel free to email them through. Amy and I will get back to you. Like I said, Amy she's all over this stuff. I'm just a show pony at the front who's a picture on a website with a glass in his hand. So send questions through. We'll get back to you. Thanks for joining us. It's been great. It's been so long since we've actually managed to do a face-to-face tasting. So this is a bit of a poor substitute, but it's what we've got for now. So hopefully sometime in the next 12 months we can do a face-to-face event, but I probably would have said the same thing 12 months ago. So let's see how this all plays out. But everyone stay safe. Enjoy your wines responsibly.
Cheers, everybody. Virtual cheers. Clink.
Cheers. Good night. Enjoy the beef cheeks.
Thank you so much, Adam. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Cheers. Good night.
Bye.